Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Crush podcast presented by Newton, Scott, and Associates. We'll have more on our title sponsor much later. But David, we're also matching today, which is kind of strange, but I'm going to pass the baton to you to not only comment on our dress wear, but also on some breaking news in the gymnastics world. I'm passing it to you, for a Spotify audience, I'm making a passing motion to David.
Yeah.
Can't really see it, but I think I hit him in the face with the pass, so that's 0 for 1 for me. But David, the floor is yours.
Well, so first of all, I think I told you a couple of days ago what this hire was going to be for the women's gymnastics coaches. And somebody texted me this morning. They said, is this a home run hire? Yeah, it's a grand slam hire, not just a home run hire. It is a grand slam hire. In case you missed the news, Clemson, the Clemson Board of Trustees Compensation Committee, they approved contracts for Justin and Elizabeth Crandall Howell. They were at Cal to be co-coaches here at Clemson for women's gymnastics. 5-year deal, $225,000 each, or you can just say 5 years, $550 total for this married couple. And when the news broke that Clemson had parted ways with Amy Smith, talked to somebody in the gymnastics world, and they were like, this is a big deal because the gymnastics, especially women's gymnastics, this is a very small world. It's a very tight-knit community. And anybody that's any good, they've been at a place for 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, 16 years, sometimes 30. They don't ever leave. Like once a school gets somebody, they keep them. And, that may explain a little bit when Clemson was getting this started, why they took a little bit of a flyer on Amy Smith. There were some questions in the background. They felt like those questions had been answered, but they took a flyer on her. And so it's like, well, then who is Clemson going to go get? Well, they go get two people who have basically brought the Cal program back from near extinction way back in 2012, and they finished second place at the NCAA championships in 2024. He is the winningest gymnastics coach there at Cal. He was named in 2012. I think his wife was named co-coach in 2018. Look, they've coached Olympics. She has been a judge out on the circuit. And, Clemson getting them from Cal, where they have been for a while, 13 years for him. This is big news. And, I think you take a look at it. Clemson maybe on a little bit more solid footing than Cal, because Cal's not getting any of the ACC revenue right yet, right? Like they all three, SMU, Cal, Stanford came on with no guarantees for money. Clemson on a little bit more solid footing. We know that they're packing out Little John Coliseum. There's a lot of support for it. Brand new facilities, and these coaches are like, we want to be a part of that. And it's just a big hire. And congrats to Graham and Neff for going out and getting that done. And I think that the excitement's going to be through the roof. Can't wait to talk to them. I'm sure you and I will get an email here in the next couple of days. Hey, come meet the new head coaches. We're going to introduce them, and you and I'll head over to the gymnastics facility and we will meet them. But that's the big news for this morning. And now we can kind of, unless you have some thoughts on it, segue into some big news from last night.
Yeah, and I just wanted to poke a tweet that our Brandon Reek fished out for us. And this is, all told, this is an earth-shatteringly good hire by Clemson. It is the gymnastics equivalent of SMU hiring Dan Lanning. And fans know how good Dan Lanning has been at Oregon.
Right.
And so there's some good stuff over there. But David, where do we want to transition to next? Obviously, this big gymnastics news that covers Monday morning. Where do you want to take us? I'm going to put the keys to you. You've got the car. Drive us to our next spot.
Well, Clemson softball, we were worried about this program earlier in the year, thought there were going to be some growing pains, a 3-6 start. Even earlier in the year, there was that series loss to Duke where there were some base running mistakes, some uncharacteristic errors. And you just wondered how much, this team is going to have some growing pains. And make no mistake about it, if they can keep everybody together, it's going to be a really good team next year. But somehow they found their footing. They won 26 out of their last 30 games. Along the way, they beat South Carolina. They beat Tennessee. They beat Florida State. They beat Tennessee when they were number 1 at Tennessee. And they've just found a way to come back, and they earned a number 11 seed in the NCAA women's softball tournament. So they've got that. We've got that starting later this week. I'm sure you and I will be out there covering softball games. And a lot of people thought maybe, and I wondered, would they get a national seed? No, they're just going to give every national seed to the SEC. Florida State, the Clemson beat, they got a national seed. and Clemson's 11. But John Rittman, head coach, said last night, look, we were on the hosting bubble a week ago, and so now we're number 11. I think that's the right spot for us. He seemed happy with it. And so now they have a path. But tell us a little bit about what that path entails, Grayson.
It's really interesting because the way that it's framed now, and we sort of joked about it last night, if Clemson can win their regional and the pairing is Texas, there may be another postseason battle with the Longhorns in Austin, which is kind of fascinating. Maybe John Rittman's thinking in his office, how can I get Dabo Sweeney some redemption over here with this Texas pairing? But I think for this the softball program, we'll get to baseball later. The softball program, I remember the start of the season, they had that preseason press conference in Little John before gymnastics meet. And the way things had been sort of framed, David, was this is going to be different. This is a roster that the vacuum of talent, it's been sucked out. They got to find new spots. Maddie Moore was still here. You had pieces, but you just didn't necessarily know how they all came together. So I think a lot of people viewed this as, hey, if this is a year to retool and it's a little bit bumpy, so be it. It starts bumpy, but then you go on an absolute tear and you get a seed to host a regional, which is nothing to certainly scoff at. I mean, this has got to be John Rittman's best coaching year, just given the circumstances that were painted before the year started. David, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the coaching job that he continues to do with this program. It feels like he continues to elevate the pieces in front of him, and it's been a remarkable year for this group.
I'll tell you what, I actually had a thought last night. I was listening to Abby Vieira and Alex Brown, two seniors, talk about, trying to keep this young team together and keep them focused. But one thing that kept standing out to me when John Rittman was talking, was how it's been different players step up, whether it's been Centron or whoever, Keely Johnson. It's been different people. And with Mackenzie Clark here, the uber talented center fielder, sometime leadoff hitter, and Valerie Cagle, maybe it was better for this team to get rid of those superstars. Hate to say that, because everybody expected them to make the play all the time, right? Well, we're just going to send Valerie out into the circle, or Valerie's going to hit the big hit, or Mackenzie's going to get the big hit. Now this is a true team, and it's everybody 1 through 9 in that lineup who has responded, and they just keep coming back. And I go back to the ACC tournament. They were down in the 6th inning to Virginia 4-3. They were down in the 6th inning 9-2 to Virginia Tech in the 6th inning. Came back and won 10-9, down 1-0 to Florida State. Came back and won on a 2-run homer. And there was so much emotion out on that field for these players, like an Abby Vieira, who has been around a long time, and Alex Brown, who started out at North Carolina, never sniffed a championship. Really odd question last night. One of the people that was there said, what was bigger, you playing well against your former team here earlier in the year or winning an ACC championship? And she's like, really? Is that a question? Winning an ACC championship, bringing a trophy home. And they all elected to wear their game-worn uniforms home on the plane. They didn't change. They didn't shower. Dirt, sweat, whatever. We're carrying the trophy on the plane in our uniforms because this is how happy we are. And then there was that thought of, it's not done yet, because now this is a team that gets to, go out and try and win a regional at home at McWhorter. And it starts out against USC Upstate. Only the second time they have played their upstate foes in program history.
And you do it in the postseason, no less. And I think based off of reactions, you always try to gauge how people feel about the draw. You get Kentucky, you get USC Upstate in there. You feel pretty good about where Clemson is in terms of talent, and just on paper, they should be able to get through this regional. It doesn't hurt that McWhorter's basically like a party when that stadium fills out. And so this place will be rocking this weekend for a regional, and then next weekend potentially for a super regional if you're traveling to Austin for that postseason redemption against Texas. But David, across the street, things aren't so peachy like the softball program. We were here on site for Clemson's series loss to Duke. David, you watched the lone win of this series on Friday night, but still issues had been creeping around, and Saturday and Sunday the pitching staff had a tough go at it. The offense couldn't necessarily find the consistency needed to keep up with Duke, and the Blue Devils came away and dropped Clemson to the third ACC series loss. This is their 9th loss in 12 games. They're 3-9 since that series win over Louisville which is really fascinating, David, because sprinkled in there is a midweek win over Georgia. And so there's sort of a nice roller coaster effect of, holy moly, this team is really good. Oh, goodness, is this team going to host a regional? And so Erik Bakich yesterday was able to hear from him on Sunday. Looked like he was ready to blow a gasket if he hadn't already, but came in there super fired up, was just saying, our backs are against the wall. There's no other choice but to fight. It's go time. It looked like he was ready to, maybe if someone was willing to take a punch from him, he probably would have swung. But David, man, I know you had some interesting stuff to relay about this team. This is the struggle bus of a lifetime for a group that we've been accustomed to seeing playing baseball, their best baseball at the right time in May, and they're playing some of their worst. Before we get back to this video, we'd like to thank the title sponsor for this podcast, Newton, Scott, and Associates. This team is headlined by Jeff Scott, former Clemson assistant coach and two-time national champion, as well as Eric Newton, a longtime local and trusted real estate partner. These two are teaming up to provide a first-class experience for all Clemson fans. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or build in the upstate area of South Carolina, you can trust Newton, Scott, and Associates. Choose the same team that Clemson coaches are selecting when they're looking to buy, sell, or build, all the way from Tigertown to Lake Kiowee. For more information, you can find them at newtonscottsc.com or by calling the number 864-722-9062. That's 864-722-9062. Now, let's get back to the video.
Yeah, and there is a caveat to the pitching staff. Let's do that first of all. Yes, Aiden Canuck has not been the Aiden Canuck of old. He has not developed this year, and I don't know the problem for that. He's been good. He's been Clemson's best pitcher, starter-wise, but it hasn't been great. Lucas Malstead on the back end has been struggling. Reed Garris, he's out. We don't know for how long. And I go back, I was looking through some historical stuff, and I go back a couple of years ago when, you look at it and you go, man, how is Clemson's pitching going to do in a regional? They've got, sure, the 3 weekend starters, but if you've got to go to the fourth game, sometimes they have one guy that maybe struggled during the week. If you have to go to a fourth game or fifth, what do they do in the ACC tournament? Right now, this team's got one starter. Drew Titsworth has been trying to fill the void. They've been lengthening him out, but it hasn't been super successful. And it's just weird that you have a team that has been ranked this high that you go in and you've got one dependable starter. Not 3, not 4, not the weekend guys. And it started earlier in the year. Dane Moeller, the freshman, really excited about him. Turns out he's out for the year. Got hurt in a preseason scrimmage. Talon Bell, I know they're high on him. Coming back from injury, they're trying to get him lengthened out. Gillen, transfer from Seton Hall. Injured, only starting to pitch as of late. LeGurnick gets hurt. Ethan Darden gets hurt. That's a lot of injuries for a pitching staff. Now Garris is hurt. We don't know how bad. Depends on who you talk to. But the numbers are just, they're ugly. And Erik Bakich tried to put a brave face on it for you yesterday. We're about to bust out, but excuse me while I read some of the numbers. And it's just not good. In 10 games, so that is the beginning of the NC State series, right? Game 1 of NC State. The pitching staff has given up 89 runs, and 86 of those are earned in 86 innings. That's a 9 ERA. They've issued 40 walks in those games. And how about the offense in those 10 games? They've only scored 54 runs. So they're being outscored 89 to 54 over this 10-game span. Jaron Purify, 5 for 25 with 10 strikeouts. Gaffney, 11 for 40 with 10 Ks. Pano, 7 for 39 with 16 strikeouts. Dom Listy, my favorite player on this team, who was batting leadoff, 10 for 36 in that span with 14 strikeouts. And overall, they've struck out 108 times versus just 43 walks in that 10-game span. And Erik Bakich said it yesterday, and you put this in our Slack channel. They're swinging at everything. And Jaron Purify, a 1 for 12 weekend. And I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name the player, but here's a perfect example. Friday night in a game that Clemson won. You get a leadoff double. And so you're not a deep baseball guy. But you get a leadoff double. What is the next guy? What is his job? What does he try and do?
You're just trying to get the ball out there so you can advance them to third, get them in scoring position. That's got to
Exactly.
be the key.
You hit the ball to the right side. That's what you do. And I thought that it was interesting because the Duke second baseman, he was bulldogging the runner at second. So that what you call the 3-4 hole in between first and second, man, I could have driven 2 semi-trucks through it. It's wide open. And all you have to do is hit a ball to that side and advance the runner to third. And instead, the hitter comes up there and swings from his heels at 3 pitches, 2 which were nowhere near the strike zone, trying to pull the ball out of the ballpark. He makes an out, and Clemson doesn't score in that inning. My old coach would have had my head on a platter if I had done that. I mean, you've got to go to the right side. You've got to play winning baseball. And offensively, it has been very offensive. Clemson, you've got to do something, right? If you're not really good at hitting home runs, then you better be able to steal bases and hit gap to gap and hit doubles. But this is a Clemson team that is way down the list. I think they've only hit 87 doubles in 56 games. Way down the list. They've only hit 60 homers in 53 games, 1.13 a game. Is that good? No, that's not really good at all. It's 116th nationally. Georgia, for instance, has hit 125 homers. The ERA on this team, 74th, 5.02, 109th in scoring, 143rd in slugging percentage. Oh, so you're not very good at doubles. You're not very good at hitting home runs. You better be good at getting on base. Well, no, 198th in batting average at just 270. Well, you better steal bases. Nope, 143rd in stealing bases.
It's a lot.
And, you go, man, so the pitching staff is struggling, and then this is an offense that, much like my beloved Atlanta Braves, just scuffling to find runs somehow. The power has not been there. The stolen bases have not been there. It looks like, Tristan McClatty may be out for the year. I'm not real sure. I know Tristan Becerra not going to play again. It is a team that really the injury bug has hit them. And then you've had some guys that you really expected to do better who, as the season's gone on, have just taken a nosedive. And now the question becomes, as they face a 3-game series at Pitt, this is a team that 2 weeks ago we were talking about appeared to be a lock for a number 8 national seed, hosting through a super regional. And then it kind of slipped, and you're like, okay, so they're at least top 16, and they're going to host a regional. And now, depending on how they do against Pitt or in the ACC tournament,
it could be we could be going to Conway.
It could be going to Conway.
That would be something. It's something that's interesting. I'd love to get back to the point that you had made, just sort of in that one scenario. You get the leadoff double, and you just have to get the guy you just got to get him to third. You just got to get it through that gap. And it feels like that the situational side of things, you could always rely on an Erik Bakich-led team. Just the cerebral approach. You have that just the from the top up, as he's always said, from the neck up has been where this team is going to be strongest. And we'd acknowledged, I think, as the season had started, that this wasn't as powerful as a group as maybe fans had expected. So they had to be a little bit more of a grind you out. And this is at our podcast with Aaron Fitt. He said this team just grinds you out. They've sort of lost that touch where every out feels like you got to really be meticulous with it. You have to really be patient through the count, really take every single pitch at a time. Each one mattered. There wasn't an easy group to really try to fix out with this group. And so I think with this Clemson team, they've sort of lost that. And I'd been talking with Facts and Children of the War. It felt like Clemson was always finding ways to win, and now it's the complete opposite. And with a group that isn't as talented, you're having to play perfect with an imperfect group. And so you've just sort of had this, everything that's gone wrong has. And so maybe, as Erik Bakich said yesterday, maybe there is a run in store for this group. He feels incredibly confident. Of course, he's going to be. But right now, it's tough to sort of visualize that if you're just trying to map out how this is going to go. I remember you and I driving back from Charlotte from the Under Armour camp and thinking, if this team is just average the rest of the way, they should be a national seed. And they've been not just below average, but pretty putrid. And so it's been an interesting turn of events for a group that's got a lot of expectations their way.
Putrid, that's a strong word coming out there, but you're right. It has not been good. They've been run ruled 4 times, I think, recently. And then there just kind of comes a point where there's just nobody down in the bullpen that, you can rely on. And like I said, Lucas Malstedt, 15 saves. He's been great, but then he's not great recently. And, the part that you have to look at, did they feast on weak competition? And now that they've hit the tough part of the schedule, lost that last game against Louisville, NC State getting hot, playing pretty good baseball. Coastal Carolina is good. Florida State is good. Duke came in with the same, league record as Clemson, outside of the top 25 because of some series that they lost. But they come in, and I'll tell you, I went to Rick Irwin's Saturday night, and here in Clemson.
Fancy over here. Fancy.
How about that? Yeah, thank you, Spencer Warmoth. Anyway, went to Rick Irwin's, and members of the Duke baseball team came in, and I think their head coach even came in too. And 4 of them were sitting at a table beside us, and they were talking about how much fun it is to play at Clemson. They were talking about the bullpen down there and how the fans were just giving them absolute crap, and how they love it and how much fun that is and what a great stadium it is. And one of them said, they're not playing great baseball right now, and 6,000 people still show up in the stands to support them. We only had 150 people at our last home game.
Wow.
And you realize people here care. And, it's really sad that this has kind of happened, that there's just been a lack of development on certain fronts. There have been injuries on certain fronts. And then this is a team that, as they've gotten into better competition, they're playing tight. And now you've got 3 games at Pitt in the ACC tournament to try and turn it around.
Yeah, and that was another thing that Bakich mentioned, is the name on the jersey. Not only do the fans care immensely, but the players do as well, and that might be playing a factor in, like, this is Clemson, this is the standard is slipping. I got to find a way to do that at this one at bat. I got to swing for the fences and see if we can fix this in one at bat, and that's just sort of not the right approach for this group, obviously. And so Pittsburgh could be that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think Pittsburgh could be that spot, though, if we're trying to be glass half full type of people, which I think we tend to be. I think in any sport, it doesn't take much for a group to find that spark, even if things are going pretty bad on the wayside. If you can go and get a series win at Pittsburgh and just allow that momentum to incrementally carry, maybe there's something there. Maybe there's a story, because Bakich said their story's not done. If this is part of it, so be it. But right now, I'm not personally seeing it. I still think that there'll be a tough out in any regional they're in. But as of today, as we're recording this Monday, May 12th, 12 p.m., it's going to be pretty tricky for this group to make that run to Omaha that they desire. But we'll see. I've been proven wrong before, and I'm happy to be shown the door.
Well, Pitt's no pushover. It's a team that, they're the 26 and 23 overall. But since the calendar turned to May, they swept a pretty good Virginia Tech team at home at Charles L. Cost Field, but put up some runs. They beat them 9-5, 5-3, 14-13. They beat number 12 West Virginia at Pitt last week, beat them 12-9, and then played a pretty good Wake Forest team. They lost 2 of 3, but again, they kept hitting the ball. And, they scored some runs. Their pitching gave up some runs. They've got Penn State tomorrow night. We will see how they end up. But for a Clemson team that has been struggling pitching-wise, we'll have to see. And it really might depend on the weather up there. If it's, crappy weather, we'll see. But right now, it looks like it's going to be rain for a lot of this weekend. But highs around 80.
Yeah, it's been a little bit rainy around here as well, David. But before we wrap up, do you have anything we wish to add before we conclude this episode? Guys, thank you as always for tuning in as well.
No, just thanks to Jeff Scott and Eric Newton for sponsoring. And, of course, Herb Tyler and the folks over at Chick-fil-A, Lisa Nasing Accounting. Can't ever, say enough about Herb Tyler, the original title sponsor for this podcast. He's still very much a part of everything that we're doing. His links are embedded here in the podcast. So now we've got two guys that, we really need to thank for helping make this thing go. We're going to have more. And then, Grayson, some exciting recruiting news via the podcast. Tate Reynolds, Clemson's quarterback commit, has agreed to come on the podcast. And not so much a recruiting deal, but let's talk baseball. Let's get to know Tate a little bit more. And hopefully that's going to lead to more of Clemson's commits jumping on the podcast with us. Hopefully that's going to happen a little bit later this week.
Hopefully so. And later this week, we'll be reporting on Contavion Anderson. His commitment is Friday, May 16th. And so maybe Clemson will be adding another 4-star talent to the board.
How do you feel about that one? Is it sunshine kind of a day?
I
Or
would
is it
say it would be pretty shocking if Clemson didn't nail this commitment here. I would say that feels like one that Clemson's got in the bag, but again, we've seen surprises. But if I had to forecast it, if I was one of those professional guys that do the like graphics with the forecast, I'd put an orange Paul next to Anderson's name and say, yeah, he's coming to Clemson on Friday. But guys, thank you as always.
Oh, I'm sorry, Grayson Mann. I'm sorry.
I don't think I can make the graphics like Hayes, but shout out to him, by the way. He's been doing it for a while. But guys, thank you as always for tuning into the Orange Crush podcast. We got a lot of exciting stuff along the way. We want to thank Newton Scott and Associates for their title sponsorship. And thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Subscribe for more of David and I's shenanigans. You guys take care. Have a good one.